Charles Spencer is going to be releasing what some call a bombshell new memoir.
Will he be using this opportunity to settle old scores? And if so, in what way? The palace should be very worried.
One person that I reckon who will probably be very conflicted about this, Prince William.
Spencer did introduce Martin Bashir, who we know is a complete fraud, to his sister. I think that will haunt him.
Are you effectively saying that Charles Spencer here is trying to almost right the wrong of the BBC Panorama interview?
That's one of the things in the back of his mind.
This is the very last thing that King Charles and Queen Camilla need.
It will remind people of things that they put to the back of their minds, and also it will introduce those who are interested.
Hello, I'm Josh Rom, Associate Editor of the Royal Observer. Charles Spencer, brother of the late Princess Diana, has just announced that he's going to be releasing a new book titled Swan Song, in which he promises that, quote, many revelations about his beloved sister are going to be revealed. What does this mean for the royal family, for Prince Harry, for Prince William, and most importantly, King Charles and Queen Camilla? Joining me to discuss all of this and more is royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard Fitzwilliams, great to see you. Now, we've had the news that Charles Spencer is going to be releasing what some call a bombshell new memoir about his late sister, Diana, Princess of Wales. Lots to unpack here. First and foremost, the timing seems a little odd because the 30th anniversary of her passing isn't till next year. But then we've also just had, barely a month ago, his nephew Prince Harry comes to stay with him at Althorpe with his wife Meghan and their two kids Archie and Lilibet, where some have speculated, and it's been speculation, partly also due to Meghan's own post as well on Instagram, that Harry and the kids went to go and see Diana's grave. Is this timing with the release of this new memoir, which he does promise to have some new revelations in it, what do you think of the timing? It's a little bit strange, isn't it?
The timing is extremely strange because you've got 29 years and it is not actually timed to a specific anniversary in the month. It's towards the end of September. I would have thought that the 30th would have been an appropriate and indeed understandable choice. But of course, no one can deny, as her brother, he has a story to tell. And there's also no question that this is going to be the most enormous amount of publicity worldwide. Now, you could argue, and I think with some reason, that over the years, certainly recently, firstly, there's a whole new generation has grown up and is not familiar with Diana. Well, a very good idea to acquaint them with what she achieved. But very, very curious, almost as though, dare I suggest, that he and Harry might perhaps have discussed this and possibly even arranged this between themselves, because we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know how William and Harry will commemorate this very substantial anniversary. We know they did on the 20th and they did it together. Things have, of course, changed radically. The interesting aspect of this book, too, is the fact that, according to L. Spencer, given the controversial oration that he gave, it suited the moment, no question about it, grossly impertinent, no question about that, in the Westminster Abbey at the funeral. What now? What precisely does he mean by saying that the book is going to build on that it's also going to be sensational? He's got to, for the purposes of selling the book. I want to know what the selling points are going to be when it's serialized, because that is what will bring it to the attention of, obviously, a huge number of people. But I will be very interested to know who is interested and why. Also, whether it does bring back Diana's magic, or whether, in fact, so far as Spencer's concerned, and you mentioned the link with Harry and the fact that undoubtedly the Sussexes visited Diana's grave at Althorpe, will he be using this opportunity to settle old scores? And if so, in what way? The palace should be very worried.
Well, this is the thing as well, because one person that I reckon who will probably be very conflicted about this is probably Prince William. And do you think that actually, considering there was the visit last month, Do you think this is yet another obstacle for the brothers' potential reconciliation if there was ever going to be one?
I would like to think that one day there would be a possibility of reconciliation. Now, it's been suggested that there are several areas where this could be examined. One of them is a mutual trust in their former aide, Jamie Lowther Pinkerton. Another, of course, is the fact that they're both Princess Diana's sons, and there was nothing that she would have been more grieved at than the rift between them. But it does seem, I think, extremely unlikely, because I don't think you can trust Harry, at least not currently.
Forget Harry a second. I'm talking in the specific context of this book. And the fact is, both Harry and William are two sons of Diana. William has the long-term future of the monarchy to think about. We know His Majesty is battling cancer. We know that he's still receiving some treatment. We know by his own admission that he doesn't have the longest time left on the planet. William has the long-term future and the long-term health of the monarchy and the institution to think about. And something like this threatens to derail that. And Harry being so close to the Spencers right now, as has been proven, that's still very much the other side of William's family too. So what I'm trying to say is, do you think there's going to be some sort of quandary here with Prince William, where he's thinking on one side, yes, there's the Spencers, there's this book, there's my late mother's story, but then on the other side is his duty, his inheritance?
Obviously, so far as William is concerned, his duty and his inheritance come above all else, and they must. That's why there are question marks, of course, with reference to how King Charles is handling matters dealing with the Sussexes, and the fact that it's perfectly obvious that they have a very different emphasis. But this book very clearly will Earl Spencer will reveal, is bound to reveal some things we didn't know, some things that, for example, weren't widely publicised, such as the 2017 of Channel 4, the programme where more material on those set tapes that Diana made for Andrew Morton and Peter Settler was used as a conduit to give them to him. They were broadcast. There wasn't that much publicity about it, but some of the charges there against the then Prince of Wales and also the late Duke of Edinburgh, these are not helpful, but it's worth remembering, of course, one of the dangers of this book is that it's unlikely to be favourable towards Queen Camilla. It can't be, by the nature of it. She is now queen, and the king and queen are now well settled. There's little question about that. But equally, the rehabilitation of Camilla was a minor miracle given the circumstances surrounding, firstly, the divorce and Panorama. And remember, of course, nothing, when someone's guilty of something, even if it was or turned out to be not his fault personally, they feel they feel very often very angry. Earl Spencer did introduce Martin Bashir, who we know is a complete fraud, to his sister. I think that will haunt him, and it's the sort of thing that would give fuel to fire if he decides to make some revelations that, after all, he is her brother. He has the right to do it.
So are you effectively saying that Charles Spencer here is trying to almost right the wrong of the BBC Panorama interview?
I think that that's one of the things in the back of his mind, and the other, of course, and this is something that he is extremely sensitive about. Diana went to the Mediterranean because he and she could not agree. She was hoping to spend time at Garden Cottage in 1997, that fateful period. There were problems with security, and he offered everything he could, but he could not agree that Garden Cottage was a good idea. So there was a problem there, and we know where it led to. It's these things that when you're writing, and he's a well-known writer, he's a historian, they do add fuel to what may be very, very awkward for the royal family. It's bound to be, I would have thought, because it will also, for those who have forgotten or those who didn't know it, the relationship between Charles and Camilla and the three in a marriage and so forth, a lot of what is not headlines now, will be specifically headlined when this book comes out 29 years after and a month. And it therefore is going to be very awkward for the royal family.
Well, this is the thing. This is the very last thing that King Charles and Queen Camilla need. As you said, it was almost a miracle that the British public now have almost accepted Camilla as Queen, bearing in mind the huge controversy from all those years back. But with Charles suffering from cancer, we don't know how long he has left on the planet. The last thing that he needs is all of this history, which the British public now, I would say to a certain extent, have put to the back of their minds. This is the very last thing he needs.
It is indeed the last thing he needs. And also, it's worthwhile looking in the polls. I mean, Queen Camilla, it's accepted, I think, has done extremely well. And there's no doubt the charities that she's championed, whether it's domestic abuse or reading or osteoporosis, she's, I mean, very, very movingly, of course, visiting Maggie's and talking about the king and cancer and when she was there and couldn't talk about it. But there's no question she's never been extremely popular. And one of the problems with this is the fact that it will remind people of things that they put to the back of their minds, and also it will introduce those who are interested to unflattering details, because Charles Spencer is not going to pull any punches. He can't. His publishers wouldn't let him. And as I say, I think he's haunted by aspects of the past which involve him, even though it was certainly not his fault that his sister believed the fraudulent Martin Bashir. It's the everlasting shame of the BBC that Panorama went out as it did.
One last question for you, Richard. We speak a lot now about King Charles's legacy, and I think his cancer diagnosis put that under the microscope. We've seen him do incredible stuff, going over to the States to repair the country's relationship, that incredible joint address to Congress, the unprecedented second state visit as well of Donald Trump and how well that went. He's done some incredible work on the world stage. Do you think this book could potentially derail his whole legacy?
No, I don't think there's any chance of that, because we must remember, whilst we discuss Earl Spencer, that this is someone who married 4 times, had 7 children, not all of whom reportedly he gets on with, and is an extremely controversial figure. There are those who might make parallels between, people in glass houses to some extent. There will be a lot of interest. It's not clear how much interest there will be, but of course we are dealing with a tragedy that occurred nearly 30 years ago. And again, it won't shake a throne, but it will make the occupant, I suspect, occupants, feel very uncomfortable.
Well, there's going to be a lot of food for thought. I think we're all going to be waiting for this book with bated breath. Richard Fitzwilliams, thank you so much.
A great pleasure.